to another episode of Gaming the System, where three intersexual feminists discuss gaming through a feminist lens. And today it is actually just myself, Jem, and Alex, and we have an awesome guest with us here today, Finn, who is a very good friend of mine and my go-to for anything on the dark web. Anything crazy, anything geeky, and definitely to talk about gaming. So hi, Finn.
Thank you very much. Hello.
You're very welcome. So today we're going to be talking about Baldur's Gate 3, and we're just going to have a general chat. We're going to try not to do any spoilers in this episode, and then we'll have another episode a bit later, which we might have some spoilers in. So hopefully you're safe, as long as you haven't gone beyond. What did we say? We go up to the first. Act one, yeah. So we'll go through Act 1, but if you haven't got beyond there, don't worry. We'll be talking. We won't be talking about anything that will give anything away, but we might give a few spoilers for Act 1. But before we get going, we are now on Patreon. So if you like what you're hearing today, or you like what you've heard before, please do follow us on Patreon. You can find us at Gaming the System. And you can also give us a one-off donation via PayPal, where you can do that via wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com. So that's all of the boring stuff out of the way. Let's just crack on. So tell me how long you've been playing Baldur's Gate 3, 4, and where you've got up to. Do you want to kick off, Finn?
Well, this is where I have to open up Steam and confront my inner demons. It's been 60 hours. And I am just in Act 2. So I think I've only been playing it for about 3 weeks. Which, those are rookie numbers for me, 10 years ago. But as an adult now, unfortunately. 60 hours in 3 weeks. But I had been aware of it for quite a while because my ex has been playing it since it was in early access.
Wow. So
I've been nagged about it kindly for about a year now.
Gosh. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Is it has it changed a lot from early access? Because I really had to I used all of my self-control not to get into it in early access, because I was like, no, I want to play the finished game and I don't have time to play it twice. So saying that, I know I'm going to play this game twice, but
yeah, it's gonna happen. There's too much to miss. They were lacking characters, they were lacking storylines, they were lacking classes, and like you, I only wanted to play the finished game, and also I wanted to play my favorite D&D character, so I had to wait for everything to be set up for that.
We'll get on to that in a bit. Okay. What about you, Alex?
I think I'm pretty similar to Finn. I've probably been doing, I can't remember exactly how many hours, but I have been playing multiplayer with my partner. That's how we've been playing all the way through, which is, I'm sure, an interesting experience compared to single player. But yeah, I think just got to the beginning of Act 2, really, so about the same place. Yeah, but absolutely loving it so far. And I'm relatively new to these types of games as well. I've not really invested much time in our big RPGs other than like The Witcher briefly, Skyrim, which isn't quite the same, but yeah. I have only really dabbled in this sort of genre, so this has really hooked me in. I think Baldur's Gate has converted me to this style of game, definitely. Because my partner plays a lot of tabletop D&D anyway, so he already knows a lot of like the lore and the stuff behind it. So I'm always like, but what does that mean? And he'll tell me exactly what to do in combat and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's really fun so far.
Is that I have to ask? Is that helping with onboarding? Because I've found they don't explain
there's not
D&D stuff
that
well.
It definitely helps having someone who understands what some of the terms mean, and like, although I did watch a tips video about things that the game doesn't tell you, and learnt about 5 or 6 new things from watching it. So it's true, I don't think they do tell you enough, really. Like even sorting out your inventory, there's ways to gather up all of the alchemy ingredients and all of the keys into one place, which definitely tidies it up a lot. And before that, I was just like constantly encumbered because I love just taking everything. I'll be like, mine, just go around and take it. But yeah, it definitely helps to have those sort of inside tips, and the game isn't always forthcoming with those. Definitely agree there. Mm.
I think that's quite interesting, isn't it? Actually, we've talked in the past about how sometimes games can be like really a bit elitist in that way,
Mm.
that they just assume that you'll know stuff, and so people who are coming into it, and I think something like Baldur's Gate 3 has had such a buzz about it, and so people who haven't before played the genre, haven't had any experience of D&D, are coming into it, and it can feel a bit sort of like you walking into somebody else's club, or like, and I think that's something that I think they've done quite well not to do that too much, because there is so much information to
Mm.
learn about D&D and
Yeah.
about all of that, and the tooltips and things are really useful. But I mean, I'm constantly on wikis and other sites, looking up, what weapon should I be
Mm.
using, or what armor should I be using, just because
I
it's
mean, just go up to a person in the street and ask them what a cantrip is.
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah,
What is a
I don't know. I'm not really sure. Some kind of magic. But
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
yeah.
So I'm slightly embarrassed to admit that according to Steam, and I think this is an inflated figure, I apparently have 242 hours
Wow.
of
Oh,
playtime.
It's
I'm
amazing.
jealous. I'm
Uh,
so jealous.
Now, I do think that is because there are times when I'm like, oh, I'm just going to pause this because I've got
Mm.
to go put the dinner on, and
Yeah.
then I don't come back to it for 3 hours because I don't. But I have tried not to do that too much with this. So yeah, I think I'm basically hardcoring this game. I have not been this engaged with
Mm.
a game probably since Neverwinter Nights, actually, which
That
goes
makes
back a long way.
sense.
But I am loving it, and I'm now up to I'm into Act 3,
Mm.
and I've been really taking my time, as you can probably tell from the hours I was put into it. But I've been yeah, I've been taking my time because I don't want it to finish, and I
Mm.
already know that because I'm soloing. Um, my husband's also playing it solo, but I already know that I'm definitely want to play multiplayer with him and do it again. Um, but even knowing that, I still don't want to come to the end of it. I'm still really just enjoying it too much. So yeah, it's just really good. I got it as soon as it was released. I was because it was released a bit earlier, I think, on the PC than
Mm.
they'd originally
Yes.
said. I think
Yeah.
it was supposed to be end of August, wasn't it? And I think it was earlier than that. So that was awesome. Um, and yeah, I mean, I've had like a fortnight where I haven't played because I've just been too busy and things. But whenever I have free time, that's what I'm doing with
Mm.
it at the
What
moment.
What do we think about hero mode?
Mm. Is that the
Oh
update
no,
in the
honor mode.
honor
Sorry,
mode
I
in the
got that.
patch? Yes. One of the biggest
Sorry.
patches they've done recently includes a new difficulty level, honor mode, and I'm not sure exactly what the details of it, but I think I've heard that it's very, very difficult because lots of people were saying that the game's not difficult enough, and that's why they've
In
brought it in. But beyond that, I don't know much about it.
You can't save,
No.
so if
No,
you
I
die,
die,
Oh
you
you
die.
die.
no, that's
Uh-huh.
awful. And you have
I
to start again
that's
with a new character.
Yep.
Oh my god!
That's my next playthrough.
Wow. That's awful.
Absolutely.
That's one thing the game doesn't tell you, or at least that's different to games I'm used to. There's not so much auto saving, so having to manually save is taking a little bit of time to get used to, and there are times where we have regretted forgetting to quick save a lot during battles and things like that. There was one, I think it was last time we played actually. We'd taken hours, well, not actually hours, that's an exaggeration, but probably a good 20 minutes to get through this battle. Barely made it through the skin of our teeth. And then we went back to camp to kind of recover ourselves. And we were both leveling up, doing things at the same time, and the game froze and it crashed. And then we were like, oh no. And then we were like, when did we last save? And it was way before at the start of the battle, and then we had to go back and do. We did much better the second time though, so actually it was probably a blessing in disguise. But that was a painful moment when the game reloaded. But yeah,
So
definitely a learning
I have a
curve.
question.
Yes.
To be honest, how many times have you saved before you press the dice roll?
That is a good question.
I haven't done
I
that
don't think I've
very
done
much.
specifically that. I've
Actually.
saved it before conversations, and actually no, wait. Actually, one time I did with the chest. That was like like an 18 or a 20 or something. When I had thieves' tools, and maybe some extra bonus or something, and I was trying to get it open just because I wanted to see what it was. And then it turned out it was something I couldn't use anyway when I did eventually get into it. So probably not worth the repeated things. But no, that was not right before the dice roll. It was shortly before approaching the chest. But yes, one time I think.
To say it in a spoiler-free way, to prevent a companion death, I started doing it.
Okay.
And the problem is, once I started doing it, I didn't stop.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be better now, but also panicking when you get certain dialogue choices and being like, where did that come from? I don't know what to say to this. I'm panicking.
Or if all of the options are bad and you're like, oh God, no.
Yeah. I do save a lot. I quick save like constantly because I am a bit neurotic about crashing. But also, yeah, I don't really have, because I'm like, although I don't really feel like I say that now with all the hours that I've racked up. But I don't feel like I have a lot of time to play. So I'm like, I haven't got time to go back and redo all of that. So that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. But I mean, that's why I take Astarion around with me, because he's so good at unlocking chests. So so I just have him along for the ride all the time. And
is that why you have him?
Yeah, that's why. Yeah,
Is that
something to do with his cute looks and his boyish charm. So, shall we talk a little bit about the statistics around their launch? Finn, you shared a really cool infographic with us, and we can put a link in the show notes, hopefully, to it. But I thought we could maybe have a chat about that.
Definitely.
And this was on the opening weekend, wasn't it? These statistics.
Unfortunately, we don't have anything past the opening weekend that I could find.
Yes.
But
still interesting to know, though.
Yeah. The one thing that I didn't. So I'm, going down here. The one thing that I didn't quite grasp myself was that you could have an origin character and not just make your own. I think I was so excited to make my own character that I just went by that as an option. And people chose Gale, which...
It's an interesting choice. Not, I mean, not one I would
pick. And Karlak came second. That's also really interesting, isn't it?
See, but a barbarian, I feel, is like just a slightly more advanced human fighter, which is what everybody chooses first go around. But a wizard is such a complicated
Yeah, and they
character class.
usually so rubbish at the start in D&D that
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be quite cautious about doing that. But I suppose you know that you're going to have a party if you've played before or you've had any kind of experience or any kind of like yeah, you've listened to the blurb, then you know that actually your main character doesn't really matter that much because you kind of engage with all of them, don't you? You get engaged. But I have heard that if you play with an origin character, you get a more involved version of their story than you
Mm.
do
That makes
if
sense.
you have them as companion. Um, so yeah, I'm really surprised that everyone went with Gale. Well, not
Yeah.
everyone, but so many people went with
Yeah.
Gale.
I also Gale was the seventh cause of death for players.
Mm.
Um, which how did you seventh out of everything is impressive.
It is. Yes.
The fireballs aren't
I
that
was going to say,
difficult
is
to
it
aim,
fireballs?
surely.
No.
So that's
Wow.
what classes did you guys actually end up going for?
So I went for rogue because I thought I wanted to. I sound being sneaky. I like for any. If you've listened to the pod before, you'll know I'm a big fan of Assassin's Creed, and I saw that they had a subclass of assassin, and I was like, I want to be that. So I am an assassin
Nice.
rogue. Um, and actually, shall I tell you my race and my background as well? I'm a deep gnome, which I think is
Oh,
apparently very
nice.
unusual. But they have dark vision and stealth bonus, and I was like, well, this sounds good for that. Um, and also, I just like being unusual, so I went for deep gnome and an urchin background, so they have sleight of hand as well. So very, very, very sneaky, and I can get lots of damage in combat from my sneak attacks, which is very, very cool. Um, and I look like a tiny assassin with a little hood at the moment, which is cool. Yeah, very much
Do
enjoying
you
it. But yes,
Are you finding that the world is reacting to your race choice,
I
or
think it is definitely. It was very interesting meeting other deep gnomes or other races who do not like gnomes. Um, that was very interesting. And also, I can't remember if the Underdark is in Act 1 or Act 2.
it is?
It is. Yeah, that was very interesting because I didn't know about the background of gnomes as a race. Um, in the fact that they were being enslaved by the is it the Drogar? I can't remember what they're called. No,
Dwergar.
wait,
Dwemer?
Dweger. That's it, the Dweger, who are apparently just bad in D&D generally. They're not very nice. Um, so that was interesting to know, and I was like, well, I'm definitely going to be helping them if they've enslaved my people. And I think you get inspiration as well if you interact with the world in certain ways that fits your background or your race or I don't know if it's your class, but definitely those two. You get inspiration points, which is very cool. I didn't know about that, but those are very helpful for when you need to re-roll and things like that. But yeah, that's what I've gone with. And my partner, as we're both making up our party, he is a barbarian half orc. I'm not sure what his background is. I can't remember what he said, but he's like the wild heart barbarian, so he can speak to animals and things like that as well.
Isn't that
Yeah,
fantastic?
I know, I love it.
The
It's so
animal
good.
NPCs, they give you quests.
Mm.
It's the
Who
I need
best
thought?
to
thing.
search
Who
for some
went?
quests. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's what
Yeah.
we went for. Two very different looking characters. Yeah.
Also,
Yeah,
this.
and looking at the chart that
Mm.
Finn shared, that gnome is like the third from last,
Wow.
least chosen,
Wow.
and half orc is fifth.
Mm.
So you come to the
Interesting.
really,
Yeah.
whereas I went for elf, which is third,
Mm.
because I almost always go for elf. I'm an elf druid,
Oh, nice.
um, and what they call the druid, I think the
Mm.
anyway the shape changey one.
Oh, cool.
That's my
Yeah.
thing because That's always been my preference. And yeah, so you meet a character in the second section, who I'm not going to name, but who was very prominent in the early Baldur's Gate, in the 1 and 2, and I think in Neverwinter as well, and was my hero. So it was so cool to meet up with her again. It's like, oh. But yeah, the druid's always been my thing. So.
But this is why I asked, because you went with elf. Have you experienced any racism whatsoever?
No, that was really interesting. I haven't, and also, um, even though you get class specific responses to say to people, you don't seem to ever get race specific responses to say, or I can't
I do a
recall
lot,
any.
but yeah.
Do
Yeah,
you?
loads.
See, I don't. I
Especially in the
haven't had
Underdark, I
that.
was just like, deep gnome, deep gnome, deep every time, because I'm like, this is the
No,
only chance.
I normally get like I can, is it Baldurian? Like, you know,
Baldurian,
like
yeah.
Baldur.
yeah, I get that one, but I haven't had any elf ones. And yeah, and even with the druid ones, when you come across a group of druids quite early in the game, and although I had lots of druid options, they were still like mostly quite annoyed with me, and
Huh.
I felt like there should have been a bit more camaraderie or
Yeah.
something. I mean, I know they were going through a bit of a challenging time, so maybe that influenced it. But yeah, what about you, Finn?
Mm.
Oh, I'm a half elf, half human twink bard with an acolyte background.
Nice.
Um,
Yes.
I have played the character Nadani in many a D&D game, in fact, one with Jem.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, so I knew exactly what I was doing going into it. Lots of bardic responses. It's quite funny that you can just do music in response to things when it's horrifically inappropriate. It doesn't make any sense, but you know, I'm here, I've got a loot. But yeah, I did find it interesting because knowing what I know about the world, I was like, okay, half human, half elf, that's not really gonna affect me too much. But then I looked down the list of races and I was like, but other people.
Mm.
So I, you know, it's not great that we're like the default
Mm.
plain white bread of character race creation, but I do think they kept in the interracial strife, which has always been, they did at least take out a lot of the problems that the third edition and earlier had. I don't know if you know about the history of like D&D and how they evolved. When we got to the fifth edition, they started taking out like inherent racial qualities,
Mm.
like, and it wasn't like a one-to-one analogy to the real world, but it was still like, you know, not all drow are evil, or not all dwarves are, you know. So, and that got a lot of pushback, but I was glad that has been removed from both Baldur's Gate and the latest edition of D&D.
Yeah, no, I think it's one of the issues, isn't it, really, with D&D and all of those kind of games, like how do they tackle those sorts of things? And I think it's good to see that they are making some progress in that direction. So, yeah, absolutely.
Although, I will say, I came across something from the first edition the other day that in its time period was obviously misogynistic. But in the year of our collective suffering 2023 could be perfect. Which is there was a wench table.
Wow.
If you came across a wench, you could roll the dice and it would tell you which type of wench you came across. And again, for a bunch of, you know, white cishet men in the 1980s, not great, but I feel like if we all got together and decided that we were just going to be a party of wenches, like by rolling a dice, that would be fantastic. So that's the type of energy I want to bring to the table.
Well, okay, so on the subject of sort of the technical side of things, what's your sort of favourite mechanic within the game that you've come across? I was just looking at the that table that you sent again, and it says that one NPC was shoved into a chasm for every concurrent player we had during our peak on Sunday. So it's 815,000 NPCs shoved into a chasm. And so I'm just wondering, like, are there mechanics like that, like shoving into chasms and, I don't know, well, talking to animals and all of those things? I mean, what's your favourite one?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. There's a lot of great things. I do find that the grease is great, but only if you're not in the grease, and then you won't slip over. But watching it happen is very, very funny, definitely, to people that you're fighting.
And the ice as well, when they're like...
Yes, yeah.
Or when the battle's over, you forget the grease is
Yes.
there, you try and walk
Yes.
through it, and then all of you are on your backs.
I actually died the other day because I had finished the fight and I was just like, oh, I can't be bothered to heal up just yet, and I was on very little health, and I kept getting grabbed by thorns, and it was just the little prickles.
Oh no! Yeah.
It's just like, no, I did reload.
But, yeah.
Wow.
I can't recommend speaking to animals enough.
No,
And also,
I love that.
I'm saying this spoiler free, but I feel like it's my moral duty to pass this advice on. Talk to the ox.
Yes.
If you see an ox, talk to it.
Yes.
That's my one early game tip.
Yeah, I love the talking to animals. I think we had a similar one in I want to say Pillars of Eternity, but I might mean another one. But anyway, yeah, they had a similar one there, and I loved it. It was always just very difficult because usually the animals are running around so quickly, and you're trying to click. You're spending like 15 minutes trying to
come back to me,
rabbit.
Yeah.
I just want to talk.
Just trying to say hello. I did spend quite a lot of time, because I can shape change. I spent quite a lot of time changing into a cat and going up and talking to people.
Nice.
And when I met a wolf, I think I changed into my wolf to see whether I would have a different reaction from them as a wolf. And I also spoke to a little bird as a cat, and I was worried that they they thought I was going to eat them.
Were they?
It sucks you in. It sucks you in. Sorry, go on.
Was the bird scared?
Yeah, but just because they were cross and grumpy and not very well, I think. I don't think it was specifically because of my... Sorry, I keep getting distracted because just behind me there's we've got food hangers for the birds outside, and there are two squirrels, extremely fat squirrels, who are doing their best to eat all of the food, and they keep falling off them. I just keep seeing this sudden drop. They don't seem to be bothered. They seem to be okay, but that's why I keep getting distracted, because it's very windy as well, so I think they're getting blown away.
Extreme sports squirrel edition.
Absolutely, yeah. I wish I could talk to them. That would be well, probably wouldn't be a very interesting conversation, actually.
I don't know.
You never know.
So I found the grease really useful, and this is a useful tip. I did actually use it almost entirely. Won the fight due to repeatedly spreading grease and setting it on fire, grease and setting it on fire. And that is one of the things that I really like. And I think it was one of the things from, again, I want to say Pillars of Eternity, but where they had all the different materials interact with each other. So, you know, if you spread water and then you create fire, you end up with steam and those kind of things. And they have kept a lot of that, I think, in Baldur's Gate 3, but not it's not as nuanced. And I think that's a bit of a shame because actually it could be quite um, fun to spend quite a lot of time strategizing. If I shoot that barrel and then I shoot that barrel and then I cast this spell, this combination of things are going to happen. Um, but you know, I still have also died because I've used and you know an electricity um, spell while I'm standing in water and you know, all those sorts of things. So yeah, one of my favourite things is the different surfaces
Mm. Yeah,
from
yeah,
sort of
that's
a
very cool.
technical perspective. So we're just coming up to our 30 minutes. So does anyone have anything they would like to add before we bring this episode to a close?
Just that it's a very well-deserved game of the year. Definitely, having
You should
been
play
Yeah.
it.
recently awarded. And if you haven't played it, you should play it, yes, as Finn says. Agreed.
How many? It won like 6 awards, didn't
I
it?
think so,
As well as
yeah.
Game of the Year.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
did very
yeah.
well.
It's definitely my Game of the Year,
Mm,
that's for sure.
yeah.
So,
You said
cool.
you hadn't been this engaged with the games since one of the other D&D games.
Mm.
I haven't been as engaged with a game since Fallout New Vegas.
Wow.
So if anybody's coming at it from that angle, this is on par with Fallout New Vegas. It is that good.
Mm,
And that was really popular.
mm, it
Yeah.
was.
I just find the Fallout games too depressing, so that's why I don't.
Oh,
Oh, it's bleak.
it is.
It's really bleak. So
Oh well, thank you both so much.
Mm.
It's always really nice to talk about these games, and I know we're going to go on and have a bit more of a chat. So, yeah, if you've enjoyed our show, please comment, share, like, send it to your friends, and yeah, you can find us on Patreon, and we have a new episode out every Thursday. So see us here, and we will be back with the second half of this this issue very soon. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
bye.